Hey guys and girls, hope you enjoyed class today. It was a little different, wasn't it? Having all that time to work and getting Mr. Connors right there at your shoulder to be able to give you feedback or answer your questions. I liked it. I mean, putting these videos together is going to be kind of strange, but I'm willing to learn and grow if you are. And if I'm expecting you to make a video, then I should know how to do it too. Anyways, now that you know that we're making tutorial videos and that they may be 3 to 5 minutes long, and then we're going to stick them up on YouTube, and that's going to be some type of skill that's going to help somebody develop their livelihood or be more self-independent, we're ready to go, right? All right. I'll see you in 4 weeks. Good luck. Yeah, I wouldn't do that to you. Yeah, I recognize that some of you probably were thinking, all right, I got this. I can make a video. I can make a tutorial, because you probably have enough experience with cameras and editing software to be able to put something together. But I can't expect that out of all of you. And plus, you know, do you even know what makes a good tutorial video, right? What makes a video that is shot and posted on YouTube engaging? What keeps people watching it after the first 2 or 3 seconds? How do you even make it so that people will click on it? Those are great questions. I mean, what camera equipment are you going to use, and what kind of settings will you need to use, and like how do you point it and aim it and focus it? Those are all good questions too. And when it comes to your actual skill, there's lots of questions about that. I mean, what are the skills that people really need to know, or that they'll have to learn on their own? Or what are the best skills for students your age who are looking to become more self-reliant and more independent? Well, that's stuff that we're going to have to research too. Speaking of that word research, well, that's what's coming next. It's our research plan. So, I'm ready to talk about it, but to do that, I'm going to need my computer. So, I should probably go sit down over there. All right, I'll be right back. Hold on.
A few moments later.
There you are. I was wondering where you went. Or maybe you're wondering where I went. Well, we're here. We're together. That's great. So, when it comes to figuring out what the problem is, remember, we heard from Will McAvoy, before you can solve a problem, you need to recognize the problem. You need to know what the problem is. Well, part of it isn't just saying this is a problem, it's doing some research into what truly is the problem, and then thinking about, well, how could I solve it? But all of that is going to take a little bit of information, sometimes outside of ourselves. So here we're taking a look at the second step in our design cycle process, the research plan. Now, research plan has 2 words in it, research and plan. Now, I know you're familiar with the word research. That's where you go and find information outside of yourself to help you better understand or better know something. Plan is actually the steps you are going to make or do to make it happen. So in this case, you're telling me in your research plan what your plan is to collect or conduct your research. It's pretty straightforward. Now, I've hidden a couple of Easter eggs inside the design challenge for areas that I think you might want to know a little bit more about. So if we were to take a look over there and read the design challenge together, we might see some things that pop out to us. For example, you will create a video tutorial that teaches or demonstrates relevant and appropriate knowledge and or skills for adolescents in a novel way. I wonder if there's anything in those words that might be important for you to know a little bit more about. You will use conventional video filming techniques and editing techniques. Maybe we need to do some research into that to produce your 3 to 5 minute video that will be posted to YouTube using your LJA school account. And I know you all have questions about that, which I'm happy to talk to you about, but you're going to need to schedule some time to do it. Let's scroll down and take a little bit of a closer look at this document. For example, Part B, research plan, says we're going to identify and prioritize the research needed to develop an effective solution. So not just any solution, but one that's actually effective. Looking at our problem and design challenge, what information do we feel we need to know? What questions do we have? What information would you need to know to move forward on this project? In fact, a couple of you had already started trying to ask me questions about the next steps that we were going to take, or what if can I use this software to record, and when is the due date? And those are all great questions, things that should end up here in this document, and you should plan to find out how to get that information. I have created for you a table that is that's major parts are two things, whose major parts happen to be two things. I've created for you a table that has two major parts. First part is all the questions or the information that you need, and the second part is some idea of the potential sources you might use to go collect that information. Let's take a first look at the questions section. It suggests that you list out a number of questions you have that are related to digital video tutorials, equipment and software, filming techniques, the problem, knowledge, skill that you plan to do some research into, focus on, as well as any of the other logistics based questions that you might have. Additionally, in addition to asking those questions, you might want to think about how you would organize your research to show the priority of what needs to be asked first or what needs to be answered first, as well as maybe the direction that you're going. Could you group certain questions together that might be related to each other? Just an FYI, logistical questions are those technical questions that I'm the only one who can answer. That's unit specific, right? Otherwise, if it's not specifically about this unit and due dates and that type of stuff, then that's information you can probably find outside of just you and me. Anyways, I have an example down below, as you can see in blue. It says, when will the final video be due? That's a logistics-based question. If you had a question like, what is the resolution of the video footage I should shoot my tutorial in? Or is my web camera a quality camera enough to shoot an effective video tutorial? Those would be other good questions. I mentioned some before I came over to the computer that you might want to rewind and go listen to and look for, or questions up above. Any questions you have, you could place down below in the table. Now, if we move over to the second half, the right side of this table, you'll notice this is where we're going to be putting some of our potential sources. I don't just want to hear your questions. I want you to think critically about where would be the best place for you to start going to look for some of these answers. I have asked that you describe some of the potential primary and secondary sources you might use to find your answers. And there's two important words in there, describe and potential. Describe is more than just a simple statement, right? You're giving me not just I will use the internet, but a description adds detail. So maybe you give me an example website you might go to, or you actually even go further and link to a potential website you might view. If it's you're going to interview someone, be detailed, be specific. Tell me who you would interview. Maybe give me an idea of a question or two you might ask them. If there's a YouTube video tutorial that you think might be a good thing for you to watch, great. Be specific, add some detail, describe. I will watch video tutorials like this one and that one and link to those. Now, if you take a look, the second word I mentioned is potential, which means you may or may not actually use these for research. It might be too hard for you to go and talk to Stanley Kubrick or some other important director who's created incredible movies in the future, or it might be even difficult to talk to Mr. Beast or one of those other famous YouTubers. That doesn't mean you couldn't actually suggest it as a potential source of information. You might not actually be able to go through with it, but I'm not asking for you to do everything in here. I'm asking for you to tell me what you think would be good potential sources. If you take a look in the two boxes below, you'll see I highlight certain primary sources that would be good places to go and find information, whether it's interviewing experts or polling the public, as well as some potential secondary sources that might be useful for you, things like websites or videos. Don't get me wrong, books and newspapers and journals are good too, but they tend to sometimes be out of date when it comes to video editing. However, they're probably pretty good when it comes to skill development or knowledge. I'm sure there's probably a lot of great books about how to do some of the things that you're interested in doing. And if you'll notice the example that I have below for the question, when will the final video be due? I suggest two different potential places that you could go to get it. Again, I suggest two potential, some more than one, and you don't have to do these, but these are the possible ways you could get that information. I suggest maybe you could interview your instructor and ask when the due date is, and you could go open up ManageBank, navigate to your design class, look for when that file or that thing is due, And those would be both primary sources and secondary sources. This is a great variety of potential sources. Notice I give you plenty of space in here for you to ask lots of questions in a variety of categories and to suggest lots of different potential places you could go to find those answers. Notice I put a number 1 and 2 there because I'm trying to show you that you could prioritize which of these sources would be the best place to go. Now, I'm not asking you to explain why you would choose one over another. But I'm also saying you could if you wanted to. It's just, it doesn't require you to do that. At least some description with some details would be good enough. Now, if you need to add more rows for more questions, you're welcome to. And again, as always, feel free to share with me your evidence in any form that works for you. You want to create a digital video and show me, here's a question I have, here's a potential source I might go to. Here's a question I have, here's a potential person I might interview. You could totally do it as a video. You could do it as a podcast and just record audio. You could write it out in your design journal. These are all optional places that you could go. Let's take a look at the rubric real quick. Down below it says that to get a 7 or 8 band, you stated, organized, and prioritized a number of important research questions needed to develop a quality problem-solving YouTube video tutorial with minimal guidance. Stated, organized, and prioritized. Remember, I have this 1, 2 that shows some thought about how I would prioritize my sources, or I might even prioritize my questions. It does say stated, organized. Now, I've already done some of the organization for you. I mean, trust me, I could have just given you this blank space here and expected you to kind of figure out how to show me evidence and how to organize it on your own. But I've kind of organized it for you in this format with the tables and the columns and the rows. So use it if you want or don't. That's your choice, right? Change it if you want, fix it if you want, add another row or column. Notice what's not here. I'm not asking you for the answers. That will come in a different document. That will come at another time. This is not saying collect all your research right now and give it to me. No, this asks you where you might go to find your answers. Now, another thing it does say is that you would do this with minimal guidance versus some guidance versus stated a few. The reality is this. I'm hoping that you will ask a number of questions in a variety of topics, that you'll organize them together by grouping, and you'll prioritize the potential resources that you might find and where you might get them from, and that when I look at it, I won't have a lot of suggestions for you. But if I look at it and I go, well, you don't have any questions related to this topic, you don't have any questions related to that area, you don't have any questions related to this, and I'm having to suggest questions you might want to do research into, and I'm doing that with a variety of different topics, then I'm doing the variety and you're not, and that means you would need more guidance than minimal guidance. Anyways, this document is yours or not. I just need you to show evidence for me that you have a plan for how you're going to conduct the research that you're going to do into the skills that you might think are interesting, into the potential technical equipment based, areas, or even into the logistics. Your time is your time on Wednesday. I don't want to take any more of it. Thank you for filling out the Google form so you can answer my questions so I know that you watched the video, and I will see you in class. Aloha.